For 11 years, the people of Black Hollow believed the woods had taken her. That was the story told to every child in the village. Nobody entered the forest after dark. Nobody spoke about the screams people heard at night. And nobody ever mentioned the woman who disappeared during the storm. Not anymore. But the truth never stayed buried forever. Especially not in those woods. Black Hollow was the kind of village most people never found by accident. Hidden between mountains and thick forest, it sat far from the nearest city. Only one narrow road led in, and after sunset, even that road went empty. No travelers stopped there at night. No strangers stayed long. The people of Black Hollow lived by rules nobody questioned. Doors locked before dark. Windows were covered before midnight. And no one under any condition entered the woods. Especially children. Ethan learned those rules before he learned how to read. His mother made sure of that. Every evening before the sun disappeared behind the trees, she walked through their small house checking every lock twice. Then she painted strange black symbols above the doors and windows. Sharp lines crossed into circles, some looking almost burned into the wood. Whenever Ethan asked what they meant, she always gave the same answer. They keep bad things away. But she never explained what those bad things were. As he got older, Ethan realized something was different about his home. Other children played outside after sunset. Other mothers laughed with neighbors. Other families weren't watched with fear wherever they walked. But Ethan and his mother were. Whispers followed them through the streets. Conversations stopped when they approached. The older villagers, especially the men who gathered outside the church every morning, watched Ethan carefully. Not like people watching a child. Like people watching a problem waiting to happen. Still, despite the fear surrounding them, Ethan loved his mother deeply. She was warm. Protective. She read stories beside the fireplace, sang quietly while cooking, smiled whenever he laughed. But even as a child, Ethan noticed something hidden behind her eyes. Real fear. Not of the villagers, not of the woods. Fear of something else. Something she never talked about. Some nights he'd wake after midnight and find the front door slightly open. His mother is gone. Hours later she'd return covered in mud and rainwater, hands shaking, clothes torn. Once he saw blood running down her arm. She quickly covered it before he could ask questions. But children notice more than adults realize. A few days later he saw the marks again while she was washing dishes. Long claw marks stretched across her shoulder. Fresh. Deep. Not human. His mother noticed him staring and pulled her sleeve down immediately. Just an accident, she whispered. Ethan wanted to believe her. But deep down, he knew she was lying. The behavior only worsened whenever the village elders visited. 3 men, old, silent, always wearing dark coats regardless of the weather. Whenever they arrived, his mother sent Ethan to his room immediately. But the walls in old houses are thin. And children are curious. So Ethan listened. Certain words became clear over time. He's getting older. You can't hide him forever. They're searching again. Then the arguments. Low, angry voices laid into the night. Once he heard one elder slam his fist against the table hard enough to shake the walls. Another time, his mother was crying. And one sentence repeated again and again: if they find him, everyone dies. Questions filled Ethan's mind constantly. Who was searching? What needed to stay hidden? Why did the elders look terrified every time they spoke about him? But in Black Hollow, questions were dangerous. So the village stayed silent. And silence allowed fear to grow. Everything changed the night Ethan heard the howling. It started just after midnight. A long, deep sound rolling through the forest outside his window. Not like any normal wolf. Larger. Closer. Angrier. Then another answered from deeper in the woods. And another. And another. The sound surrounded the village from every direction. Dogs barked wildly outside. Lights flashed on inside nearby homes. People shouted in panic somewhere down the road. Then Ethan noticed something that made his blood run cold. His mother was already awake. Standing beside his bedroom door. Frozen. Fear covered her face worse than he had ever seen. She rushed through the house without speaking, locking every window again even though they were already locked. Then she pulled thick wooden boards from beneath the staircase and nailed them over the windows while thunder shook the village outside. And under her breath, over and over again, she whispered the same thing. Not tonight. Please do not tonight. Another howl. Closer this time. Then every dog in the village stopped barking at once. The silence that followed felt wrong. Heavy. Like the entire village was holding its breath. Ethan's mother turned toward him. Her eyes filled with panic, the real kind that adults struggle to hide from children. She grabbed his face with both hands and spoke in a shaking voice. No matter what happens, never follow my voice in the woods. Ethan frowned. What? She repeated it immediately. Louder. No matter what happens, you do not follow my voice. Then something slammed against the outside wall. Hard. The entire house shook. A deep growl rolled outside. Low. Massive. Not human. Then came the scratching. Long sharp claws dragged across the front door with a slow, horrible sound. Scrape. The scratching moved to the walls. Then the windows. Something circled the house, heavy footsteps pressing through the mud while rain poured from the sky. Then a second growl answered from behind the house. Another from the roof. Another near Ethan's bedroom window. The house was surrounded. What are those things? Ethan whispered. His mother grabbed a hunting knife from the kitchen drawer instead of answering. Then came the voice. Soft. Barely audible beneath the storm. Claire. His mother stopped breathing. The voice came again. Claire, let us in. It sounded human. But something about it felt wrong. Too slow. Too empty. Like something copying the sound of a human voice without fully understanding it. His mother backed away from the door immediately. A heavy slam hit the wood. Bang. Then another. Bang. Dust fell from the ceiling. The door frame cracked. And then the growling started again. Not one creature. Many. Different sizes. Different voices. All surrounding the house at once. Ethan heard movement on the roof above him, heavy footsteps pacing overhead. Claws scratching directly above his bedroom. His mother pulled him behind her. 3 slow knocks broke through the storm. Knock. 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 Then silence. The voice returned one final time. Claire, he belongs to us. The front door exploded inward. A massive dark shape crashed through the entrance with terrifying force. The wood shattered. The smell of wet fur and blood filled the room instantly. Everything happened too fast after that. Glowing eyes. Huge claws. Teeth flashing in darkness. Furniture shattered as giant shapes moved through the room faster than human bodies could move. Another creature burst through the kitchen window. Growls filled every corner. Then Ethan saw something impossible. One of the creatures stood on 2 legs. Its eyes glowed gold in the darkness. Rainwater dripped from thick black fur. And somehow it looked directly at Ethan. Like it recognized him. His mother grabbed the creature with both hands. Run! She screamed. The thing roared. The entire house shook. It dragged her backward into the storm. Ethan lunged forward crying. Mom. But another massive growl stopped him cold. One of the beasts stood between him and the open doorway now. Watching him. Breathing heavily. Its glowing eyes never blinked. Neither of them moved. Then from somewhere deep in the woods Ethan heard his mother scream one final time. After that, silence. The creatures vanished into the darkness beyond the trees. The storm slowly weakened. And Ethan stood alone inside the destroyed house. Shaking. Crying. Waiting for her to come back. She never did. By morning, the villagers arrived. Some looked frightened. Others looked strangely unsurprised. The elders searched the broken rooms quietly, avoiding eye contact with Ethan. Nobody explained what happened. Nobody answered his questions. And when Ethan begged them to search the forest, they refused. One by one, they stepped away from the woods. Finally, one old man spoke the words Ethan would carry for the rest of his life. The woods claimed her. No investigation. No rescue. No search party. Just fear. As if everyone in Black Hollow already knew entering those woods meant death. That evening, after the villagers left, Ethan stepped outside alone. The rain had stopped. Mud covered the ground around the porch. And there directly beneath his bedroom window he found tracks. Massive wolf tracks. Far larger than any normal animal. The years after Claire's disappearance changed everything in Black Hollow. Especially Ethan. The little boy who once waited every night for his mother to return slowly became someone the village feared. Rumors spread quickly. People whispered that something was wrong with his blood. Some claimed the creatures came for him that night. Others believed his mother had been hiding something dangerous inside their home for years. And in a village already ruled by fear, rumors became true very quickly. By 18, Ethan lived almost completely alone. The small house near the forest remained exactly the same. The claw mark still scarred the walls. The strange symbols still hung above every door. And every night before sleeping, Ethan checked the locks exactly the way his mother once did. Part of him hated himself for that. But strange things had started happening to him too. At first the changes were small. He began hearing things nobody else could: footsteps outside long before visitors knocked, whispers carried on the wind, dogs barking nearly half a mile away. Then came his sense of smell. Rain. Blood. Smoke. Fear. Sometimes he could smell emotions before people even spoke. The nightmares returned too. Every single night. Always the same dream. Dark woods. Heavy rain. His mother was screaming somewhere between the trees. Sometimes terrified. Sometimes angry. But lately her voice sounded different. Closer. Like she was trying to lead him somewhere. And then there was the anger. There were moments when rage seemed to take complete control of him. Like something waking up beneath his skin. One winter evening, a group of older boys cornered him outside the village store, the same thing they'd done for years. One called him Curse Blood. Another threw mud at his jacket. A third said the creatures should have dragged him into the woods with his mother. That was when something changed. Witnesses later claimed Ethan moved faster than humanly possible. Before anyone understood what happened, one boy crashed against a wooden fence several feet away. Another hit the ground hard enough to break his arm. The terrifying part wasn't the strength. It was his eyes. Several villagers swore Ethan's eyes flashed gold during the fight. After that night, fear around him became worse. And whispers followed him everywhere. The blood is waking up. He's becoming like them. Just like his mother. Not everyone abandoned him. Marcus Reed, his only real friend, stayed. Marcus treated Ethan normally, helped repair the old house, and more than once stopped fights before they became deadly. But even Marcus admitted something strange was happening. One evening walking home, Ethan suddenly stopped in the middle of the road. "There's someone out there," he said, staring into the forest. Marcus looked. "I saw nothing." "Three of them," Ethan whispered. Moments later 3 hunters emerged from the trees exactly where Ethan had been looking. That was the moment Marcus truly became afraid. Because Ethan should not have heard them from that distance. Around the same, a girl named Elena. Nobody in Black Hollow knew much about her family. They lived near the river close to the forest edge, and people avoided them almost as much as they avoided Ethan. Elena herself seemed strangely connected to the woods. She appeared in places nobody else went. Near old forest trails. Near abandoned hunting grounds. Sometimes standing perfectly still, staring into the trees. Ethan first noticed her after waking from another nightmare. He looked outside just before sunrise and saw her standing near the forest, watching his house. Not moving. Just watching. Then she disappeared back into the trees. But Elena was not the only one watching Ethan closely. Father Gideon watched him too. The village priest had been in Black Hollow longer than almost anyone alive. Quiet. Cold. Always carrying the same silver cross. He never openly insulted Ethan, but there was something unsettling about the way he looked at him. Like he was studying him. Waiting for something. And several villagers later claimed they saw Father Gideon meeting secretly with armed hunters outside town after midnight. Then there was Walter Vane. One of the last men still willing to enter Black Hollow Forest alone. The villagers called him crazy. He rarely spoke to anyone and spent most days sharpening hunting knives outside his mountain cabin. But one night, as Ethan passed by the old man's property, Walter suddenly spoke without even looking up. "They're getting closer." Ethan stopped. "What?" Walter finally lifted his eyes toward him. And for the first time in years, Ethan saw genuine fear in another person's face. "They know what you are now," the old hunter said. Before Ethan could ask another question, Walter walked back into his cabin and slammed the door. That same night, the nightmares became worse than ever. Ethan dreamed of glowing eyes surrounding him from every direction, hundreds of them, watching silently between the trees. Then came his mother's voice. Soft. Close. Almost beside him. "AJ." He woke instantly. Breathing hard. Sweat covering his face. Then he heard it again. Clear this time. Not inside his head. Outside. His childhood nickname. The nickname only his mother ever used. AJ. By the time Ethan rushed outside, the village street was empty. Only cold wind moved through Black Hollow. But he knew what he heard. That voice belonged to his mother. Not a dream. Not a memory. Real. For the first time in 11 years, fear mixed with something else inside him. Hope. And hope can make people do dangerous things. The next morning, Ethan began searching for answers. He questioned villagers who refused to speak, searched old newspaper records inside the church basement, and returned to the edge of Black Hollow Forest for the first time since childhood. But every path led to silence. One elder grabbed his arm hard enough to leave marks. "Stop searching," the old man warned. "Some things buried in those woods should never return." Ethan was already too deep into the truth to stop. That night, as heavy fog rolled through the village, he heard a knock at his front door. 3 slow knocks. The exact same pattern from the night his mother vanished. He grabbed the hunting knife beside the table before opening the door. Walter Vane stood outside rain-soaked, pale beneath his gray-beard rifle in his shaking hands. The old hunter stepped inside immediately, slammed the door, and locked it. Every lock. Every chain. Just like Claire used to do. Then he moved to the window, stared into the darkness outside, and finally spoke. They heard her voice too. Ethan's blood turned cold. What? Walter turned slowly toward him. The woods are waking up again. According to Walter, Black Hollow Forest was never normal. Long before the village existed, people disappeared inside those trees. Entire hunting groups vanished without leaving bodies behind. And every few generations the howling returned. Walter claimed that creatures living in the forest were older than the village itself. Older than the church. Older than every story whispered around fires at night. They belonged to something ancient. A bloodline hidden for centuries. The Moonborn. The Moonborn were not ordinary beasts. They were born, not created. Their blood passed from parent to child, growing stronger with every generation. Some could hear heartbeats from impossible distances. Some healed from wounds overnight. Some transformed fully under the full moon. But the most feared among them were the blood heirs. Children born carrying something deeper. Something dangerous. Walter's voice lowered when he finally said the words Ethan would never forget. Your mother wasn't hiding from the wolves. He paused. She was hiding you. The room fell silent. No, Ethan whispered. Walter stared directly at him. She knew what you were becoming. Ethan backed away. That's impossible. But deep down, the strange strength, the hearing, the anger, the nightmares, suddenly none of it felt impossible anymore. Walter reached into his coat pocket and placed something on the table. Ethan froze the moment he saw it. His mother's silver necklace. The one found hanging from a tree branch the morning after she vanished. But that wasn't all. Beneath it sat a small black journal worn from age and water damage. She left these with me before the attack, Walter said quietly. She knew they would come eventually. Ethan's hand shook as he opened the journal. Pages filled with strange drawings and notes in his mother's handwriting. Symbols identical to the ones painted above their doors. Maps of Black Hollow Forest. Sketches of massive wolf-like creatures standing upright. Some pages contained names crossed out violently in black ink. Others mentioned something repeatedly. Again and again through the journal. Do not let him wake. The alpha below calls to them. The blood remembers. Ethan turned pages faster. The notes grew more desperate over time. Claire wrote about blood inheritance, about children born carrying ancient instincts, about a curse hidden inside family lines for generations. One page contained only a single sentence repeated over and over. He can hear them now. He can hear them now. He can hear them now. Ethan stopped breathing. Because the ink on those pages looked fresh. Not 11 years old. Fresh. Then he reached the final page. The last entry was short. Uneven. Rushed. As if written moments before something terrible happened. Only one sentence filled the page. If you're reading this, they finally found me. Ethan did not sleep after reading the final page. Found her. Not killed her. Not taken from her. Found. That single word changed everything. Because if Claire wrote those words before disappearing, she knew someone was hunting her long before the attack happened. By sunrise, Ethan made his decision. He was going into Black Hollow Forest. Not the edge where hunters sometimes walked during daylight. Deep into the woods, the place everybody feared most. Walter tried to stop him. Asterisk, you don't understand what lives out there. Asterisk. But another detail inside the journal disturbed Ethan more than anything else. On one of Claire's maps, she had marked a location deep inside the forest with a single sentence beside it. They return here during the red moon. He needed to know what they meant. So just before sunset, he crossed the forest line for the first time in 11 years. The moment he stepped beneath the trees, the atmosphere changed completely. The air felt colder. Heavier. Almost difficult to breathe. Fog covered the ground so thickly it swallowed his boots with every step. The deeper Ethan walked, the quieter the world became. No birds. No insects. Nothing. Only distant wind moving between dead branches. And somewhere far away whispers. Too quiet to understand. But the further he walked, the more those whispers began sounding human. Then he noticed the bones. Animal remains covered the forest floor. Deer skulls. Broken ribs. Half-buried skeletons between tree roots. Some looked old. Others looked fresh. One carcass still had blood on it. The smell hit him immediately. His senses felt sharper inside the forest, stronger than ever before. And for the first time, he realized the woods smelled familiar. Not comforting. Known. Like some part of him remembered this place. That realization frightened him more than anything else. As darkness covered the forest, Ethan eventually reached the location marked in Claire's journal. A massive stone clearing hidden between ancient trees. Strange symbols carved across the ground in giant circles. Burned candles surrounding broken stone pillars covered in moss. The remains of old fires staining the earth black. An abandoned ritual site. Then his flashlight revealed something carved into one of the stones beside him. Claw marks. Huge claw marks. Not random scratches deliberately. Sharp. Deep enough to cut through solid rock. And beside the claw marks the exact same symbol Claire had painted above their doors for years. Someone had been here recently. A branch snapped somewhere behind him. Ethan spun around. Nothing. Only fog moving between the trees. Then another sound from his left. Fast movement. Something large circling the clearing just beyond sight. He aimed the flashlight toward the trees and caught a glimpse of glowing eyes before they vanished. The whispers returned louder. Not from the trees. From the darkness surrounding him. Low voices. Watching. Then a growl. Deep. Massive. Close. Ethan froze. A giant shape moved between the trees ahead. At first it looked like a shadow. Then it stepped forward slightly, and he saw the outline clearly. A wolf. But far larger than any normal animal. Its shoulders stood nearly level with Ethan's height. Dark fur blending into the shadows while two gold eyes stared directly at him without blinking. The creature did not move. It simply watched. Then another pair of glowing eyes appeared behind it. Then another. The giant wolf lowered its head and charged. Ethan ran. Branches tore across his face as he sprinted blindly through the forest. Heavy footsteps crashed behind him while growls echoed from every direction. The woods no longer felt empty. They felt full. Full of eyes. Full of movement. Then suddenly everything stopped. The footsteps vanished. The growling disappeared. Even the whispers were gone. Ethan slowly lifted his head. And there hanging from a tree branch directly in front of him was his mother's silver necklace. Fresh blood dripped from it slowly into the mud below. Ethan stood frozen beneath the tree. The necklace swayed slightly. Blood dripped in slow drops. The forest had gone completely silent again. Then the silence broke. Something crashed into him with violent force. His body slammed into the ground as a massive shape pinned him down. The smell of wet fur and earth filled his lungs instantly. Gold eyes appeared above him. Close. Too close. This creature felt older than the others. Heavier. Angrier. It pressed down harder. Ethan tried to push it off and something inside him snapped in response. Sharp pain shot through his chest. His vision blurred. His hearing suddenly sharpened, every sound in the forest expanding at once. Heartbeat. Wind. Movements in the trees miles away. Then something worse happened. He could feel the creature's heartbeat pressing against him. Like he was connected to it. The creature snarled and lunged closer, its jaws opened. And at that exact moment, Ethan's eyes flashed gold. Everything stopped. Even the creature hesitated. Then Ethan screamed. But it was not fully human anymore. The sound echoed differently through the trees. Deeper. Raw. The bones in his arm cracked, not breaking. Changing. His body twisted violently as something inside him began forcing its way out. Pain shot through every part of him at once. His hands began changing shape. His fingers stretched slightly. His nails hardened. His vision sharpened until he could see movement behind trees he couldn't physically see. The creature backed away. Confused. Uncertain. Ethan rose unsteadily. When he looked at his reflection in a small pool of water nearby, his eyes were glowing gold. Fully. He stepped toward the creature without thinking. And the creature stepped back. The hunter became the hunted. Then a voice cut through the forest. Calm. Male. Close. You see it now. Walter Vane stepped out from behind the trees. He didn't look surprised. Only tired. Like he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. What is happening to me? Ethan's voice shook. Walter looked at the glowing eyes. At the shaking hands. Then in the forest around them. You're waking up. No. This is not real. Walter approached slowly. Your blood was never human to begin with. He began explaining what Ethan's mother had tried so desperately to prevent. Not all Moonborn became beasts. Some carried something deeper, something rare. Alpha blood, Walter said carefully. Ethan felt a strange pressure inside his chest at those words. Like his body recognized them. The creatures you saw, they are not just hunting you. They are responding to you. That's impossible. Your mother knew. Ethan's anger flared instantly. Don't talk about her like that. Walter's expression hardened. She hid you for a reason. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance though the sky above was clear. There is a prophecy tied to your bloodline, Walter continued. Every alpha heir either controls the Moonborn, or becomes the thing they fear most. Ethan's voice cracked. She would have told me. Walter shook his head slowly. She chose silence because the alternative was worse. Then Walter reached into his coat and placed something in Ethan's hands, another set of pages, older than Claire's journal, covered in symbols matching the ritual site. Walter spoke quietly. Your mother did not just disappear that night. She made a choice. A pause. She was protecting you from something that was already inside you. The wind shifted suddenly. All the sounds returned at once, whispers, distant growls, movement between trees. Then a voice came from somewhere unseen. Cold. Almost human. But not quite. She was never a victim. The words disappeared into the darkness as quickly as they came. Walter immediately raised his rifle. We need to leave. But Ethan barely heard him. One sentence kept repeating inside his head. She was never a victim. For 11 years, he had believed the creatures dragged his mother away against her will. He carried the memory of her screaming. Crying. Begging him to run. Now that story was beginning to crack apart. And the deeper the truth surfaced, the darker it became. As Walter led Ethan through the forest, he explained what the village had hidden all these years. Claire was not an ordinary woman. Long before Ethan was born, her name was feared far beyond Black Hollow. Hunters tracked her across different territories. Entire packs avoided crossing paths with her. Because Claire belonged to one of the oldest Moonborn bloodlines ever recorded. And unlike most Moonborn, she could fully control the transformation. Your mother was one of the strongest among them, Walter said. Decades earlier, something ancient awakened beneath Black Hollow Forest. Not just another creature, something older than the Moonborn themselves. The Alpha below. A being tied to the first bloodline. Buried beneath the forest for generations. Waiting. Calling to blood descendants connected to it. And every few decades, when the call became stronger, disappearances began. The howling returned. The forest grew dangerous again. Your mother helped seal it away, Walter said. Ethan went numb. What? She entered the woods willingly that night. The sentence shattered everything. No. I saw them take her. She wanted you to believe that. Ethan stepped backward. Anger exploded inside him. All these years? Walter said nothing. And silence became its own answer. Claire had staged her own disappearance. The villagers knew. The elders knew. Even Walter had known pieces of the truth. The attack that night had been real, but not in the way Ethan remembered. Claire had not been dragged into the woods helplessly. She had gone there to stop something from reaching him. Walter explained that the creatures surrounding the house that night were not only hunting Claire. They were searching for Ethan. Because his blood carried something rare, an alpha heir. A successor. The kind born once in generations. And according to old Moonborn law, the alpha bloodline could either strengthen the prison beneath the forest or destroy it completely. Claire knew what Ethan would become as he grew older. That was why she kept him isolated. Why did she paint symbols around the house? Why did she argue constantly with the village elders? She was buying time. Trying to stop the prophecy before Ethan fully awakened. Walter handed him another damaged page from Claire's journal. One section stood clear despite the water damage. He must never hear the call. If the blood wakes, the forest opens again. Every memory from childhood suddenly felt different. The fear in Claire's eyes. The late-night disappearances. The claw marks beneath her sleeves. The strange rules. None of it had been madness. She had been preparing for war. The betrayal cut deeper than the fear. Not only had his mother lied to him, the entire village had. Every elder who claimed the woods took Claire had already known she entered willingly. They allowed Ethan to grow up believing she was dead. Because fear was easier than truth. But Walter revealed one final detail that changed everything again. Claire was supposed to return. The ritual inside the woods was never meant to last this long. Something went wrong. Walter's voice became quieter. We lost contact with her years ago. That was when Ethan understood the real horror. Claire might not have been hiding anymore. She might have been trapped. The fog thickened suddenly. The forest grew colder. And somewhere deeper between the trees a howl echoed through the darkness. Not angry. Not wild. A warning. Walter immediately raised his rifle. We're not alone. Branches cracked. Movement circled them slowly. Heavy footsteps pressed into the mud beyond sight. Then Ethan heard breathing. Close. Very close. He turned toward the sound and froze completely. A figure stood between the trees several yards away. Tall. Still. Partially hidden by fog. At first, Ethan thought it was another creature. Then lightning flashed above the forest. And for one brief second he saw her face. Older. Paler. Scarred across one side. But unmistakable. Claire. His mother. Alive. For several seconds, nobody moved. The forest itself seemed frozen. Walter slowly lowered his rifle in disbelief while Ethan stared without breathing. Claire stood motionless between the trees. Rainwater dripped from her dark coat. Long scars crossed one side of her face and neck. Her hair, once dark and soft in Ethan's childhood memories, now carried streaks of gray. But her eyes remained the same. Sharp. Protective. And filled with fear the moment they locked onto Ethan. Not afraid of him. Fear for him. Then she spoke softly. EJ. The childhood nickname hit Ethan harder than anything else that night. Because suddenly the impossible became real. 11 years of grief. 11 years of anger. 11 years of believing she died in these woods. All shattered in a single moment. Mom. She carefully approached through the fog. And up close she looked exhausted. Not physically tired. Worn down. Like someone who had spent years fighting something without rest. The scars covering her arms were not normal wounds. Some looked like claw marks. Others looked burned into her skin. And beneath her sleeve dark symbols had been carved directly into her flesh. The same symbols she once painted above their doors at home. I had to hide the marks, she said quietly. You lied to me. Yes. For 11 years? I know. You let me believe you were dead. Pain flashed across her face. But she didn't deny it. It was the only way to keep you alive. All those years alone because of your lies? His eyes flashed gold again. The forest responded immediately with growls echoing somewhere deeper in the trees. Walter stepped backward nervously. Control it, the old hunter warned. Claire moved closer carefully. You have every right to hate me. Then tell me the truth. A long silence followed. Then Claire began explaining everything. Hunters had been searching for Ethan since birth. The Alpha bloodline had nearly disappeared generations ago after a war inside Black Hollow Forest. The ancient Alpha trapped beneath the woods could only awaken fully through someone carrying direct blood inheritance. Someone like Ethan. Shortly after he was born, signs appeared immediately. His heartbeat reacted strangely during full moons. Animals became aggressive near him. And the forest itself seemed aware of his existence. That was when the hunters came. Not ordinary hunters, an old organization sworn to prevent another Alpha from rising. When they finally confirmed Ethan carried Alpha blood, war became unavoidable. The attack that night was never meant to kill me, Claire said. They came for you. She admitted it. Entering the forest willingly was the only way to draw them away from Ethan completely, and sealing herself inside the ritual grounds would weaken the connection between Ethan and the Alpha below. For a while, it worked. But as Ethan grew older, the bloodline awakened naturally anyway. That was why his senses changed. Why the dreams returned. Why the forest began calling him. The blood always remembers where it came from, Claire said quietly. Walter's voice was grave. And now the prison is weakening. Claire nodded. Then revealed the most terrifying truth yet. The Alpha below was not simply trapped. It was conscious. Listening. Waiting for the blood heir to fully awaken. And Ethan's transformation earlier that night proved something terrible. The process had already begun. Claire grabbed Ethan's hands tightly. Listen to me carefully. Your blood can either strengthen the prison or destroy it completely. If you lose control, Black Hollow dies. Everything Ethan believed about himself was collapsing at once. Humans. Monster. Victim. Weapon. He didn't know what he was anymore. He slowly pulled his hands from hers. How do I know you're telling the truth now? Pain crossed her face. Before she could answer, Walter suddenly raised his rifle sharply toward the trees. Metal weapons loading. Human voices whispering through the fog. The hunters had found them. Claire's face changed immediately. Run. The forest exploded into chaos. Gunfire ripped through the trees the moment Claire shouted. Hunters emerged from the fog on every side, flashlights cutting through the darkness in sharp beams. They had been tracking them the entire time. Walter fired first. His rifle thundered through the woods, dropping one attacker before the other scattered behind trees. The chase began immediately. Unlike ordinary villagers, these hunters moved through Black Hollow Forest without fear, like they knew it better than anyone. Like they belonged there. As they ran, Ethan noticed something about the hunters' weapons. Strange symbols burned into the silver blades and rifle stocks. The same symbols are hidden throughout Claire's journals. The same symbols carved into the ritual site. These men were connected to the forest far deeper than the village ever admitted. Claire stopped near a narrow cliffside path hidden behind thick trees. Moments later, several hunters rushed past them without noticing. Walter finally caught up, blood covering part of his shoulder where a bullet had caught him. But the old hunter ignored the injury completely. They brought the order, he muttered. The order? The people Black Hollow fears are not the wolves. A pause. It's them. The hunters were never heroes. They were never protecting the village. For generations, the order manipulated Black Hollow through fear. The stories about monsters in the woods. The rules. The disappearances. All carefully controlled because fear kept people obedient. And obedient people never searched for the real truth hidden beneath the forest. Claire revealed that the order didn't want to destroy the Alpha bloodline. They wanted to control it. The ancient power beneath Black Hollow couldn't simply awaken on its own. It required blood inheritance. An Alpha heir strong enough to survive the transformation. Someone exactly like Ethan. For years, the order hunted moonborn descendants across different territories searching for the right bloodline. Most heirs died before awakening fully. Others lost control and became wild creatures consumed by rage. But Ethan's bloodline traced directly back to the original Alpha succession. That made him valuable. They don't want to stop the Alpha below, Claire said. They want to command it. The realization changed everything. The village had lived under a lie for generations. The hunters controlled the elders. Controlled the church. Controlled the fear itself. A sudden howl interrupted close, very close. The hunters had found the trail. The chase resumed. Faster. More violent. As Ethan's emotions spiraled, the woods began reacting strangely around him, fog thickening unnaturally around the hunters, tree roots shifting across pathways, growls echoing between the trees from nowhere visible. The forest is responding to him, Claire said under her breath. Then the ambush happened. 3 hunters dropped from the trees directly in front of him. One swung a silver blade toward Ethan's throat. Everything after that moved almost too fast to see. Ethan caught the hunter's wrist mid-strike. A loud crack echoed through the forest. The hunter screamed. Ethan threw him backward with terrifying force. Another attacker lunged, but Ethan reacted instinctively this time. Faster than human reflexes should allow. His eyes flashed gold again. His teeth sharpened slightly. And when he slammed the second hunter into a tree, the trunk cracked from the impact. The third hunter froze. Not afraid of a boy. Fear of what Ethan was becoming. The forest reacted instantly. Howls erupted deeper in the woods. Dozens of them. Answering him. Then all movement stopped. A new figure stepped from the fog ahead. Tall. Older. Wearing a dark coat marked with silver symbols across the chest. Unlike the others, this man carried no visible fear. Only cold confidence. The hunters around him immediately lowered their weapons. Walter's expression changed the moment he saw the man. Damien. Claire's face lost all color. The older man's eyes locked directly onto Ethan. Then slowly he smiled. Not kindly. Like someone finally seeing something they had searched for a very long time. You have his eyes, the man said quietly. Ethan's heartbeat slowed. What? The hunter leader stepped closer. I knew your father. The forest went silent after Damien spoke those words. For years, Ethan's father had been nothing more than a shadow inside old memories. No photographs. No grave. No explanation. Whenever Ethan asked about him as a child, Claire always changed the subject. Now suddenly the hunters knew more about his father than he did. Ethan slowly turned toward Claire. She looked terrified. Not shocked. Not confused. Terrified. And that reaction told him everything. She had been hiding this too. Your father's name was Vale, Damien said. Walter lowered his rifle slightly in disbelief. You told the boy nothing? Claire said nothing. Her silence became its own confession. Lucian was not just another moonborn, Damien continued. He was the last true Alpha heir. According to Damien, decades ago the moonborn were divided across hidden territories. Some packs lived peacefully. Others became violent. But all of them answered one ancient law. The Alpha bloodline ruled above all others. And Vale was born carrying that blood. Stronger senses. Faster transformation. Abilities no ordinary moonborn possessed. Many believed he would become the next guardian of the prison beneath Black Hollow because only an Alpha heir could strengthen the seal keeping the Alpha below trapped underground. But something changed. Lucian discovered the truth about the order. The hunters were never protecting the prison. They were studying it. Experimenting with it. searching for ways to control the power buried beneath the forest. Once Lucian learned that he turned against them, Ethan felt hope at first. His father fought the hunters. His father tried stopping them. Then Damien revealed the darker part. Your father betrayed his own pack. Claire closed her eyes immediately. Lucian believed the Alpha below should not remain imprisoned forever, Damien said. He believed the Moonborn had spent generations hiding like animals while humans ruled the world above them. And the Alpha below could change that. Some followed Lucian willingly. Others resisted. The result was a massacre hidden from history, entire packs vanishing inside Black Hollow, hunters dying, Moonborn killing each other. And in the middle of it all, Claire betrayed Lucian to stop the prison from breaking open completely. Ethan slowly looked at his mother again. I tried to save him, she whispered. Damien interrupted coldly. You chose the hunters over your own blood. I chose Ethan, Claire said. Her voice cracked. Silence. Then Damien revealed the truth Ethan feared most. Lucian was never confirmed dead. The final battle beneath the forest ended with the prison collapsing deeper underground. Many bodies were recovered afterward. Lucian's was not. Rumors spread among surviving Moonborn. Some believed he died protecting the Alpha below. Others believed something far worse, that the prison changed him. Corrupted him. Made him part of whatever ancient thing slept beneath Black Hollow. Walter spoke quietly. If Lucian's alive, then the seal is already weakening. Damien nodded. It's been weakening for years. Then he looked directly at Ethan. That's why your awakening matters. Every piece of Ethan's identity suddenly felt poisoned. Humans. Monster. Weapon. He no longer knew which truth was worse. Claire stepped toward him carefully. I wanted you to have a normal life. Ethan's anger exploded. Normal? His eyes flashed gold again. The ground beneath him trembled slightly. Ethan. But he backed away from her. You let me grow up alone. You let me believe you were dead. Another tremor shook the forest floor. Small rocks rolled across the ground. Then came the sound. A deep rumble beneath the earth. Not thunder. Something larger. Older. Alive. The trees began shaking violently. Birds exploded from distant branches in panic. And somewhere far below the forest something massive moved. Damien's calm expression finally disappeared. The prison. A deafening howl suddenly erupted from underground. The sound was so powerful it shook dirt from the trees themselves. Ethan grabbed his head in pain immediately. Because unlike everyone else, he heard something hidden inside the howl. A voice. Calling his name. While the hunters looked around in panic and the trees shook violently, Ethan remained frozen, listening to the sound echo not through his ears, but inside him. Deep beneath Black Hollow Forest, something ancient had awakened enough to recognize its bloodline. And it was calling him home. The ground cracked nearby. One hunter lost balance as dirt collapsed beneath his feet. Ancient trees groaned while distant howls spread across the mountains. The prison beneath Black Hollow was failing. Everyone standing there knew it. Damien turned toward Ethan immediately. We're out of time. Walter raised his rifle. Stay away from the boy. The seal is tied to his blood now, Damien said, ignoring Walter completely. Claire stepped protectively in front of Ethan. No. A horrible silence followed. Because deep down Claire knew Damien was right. Another violent tremor shook the ground. Then part of the earth several yards away collapsed inward. Stone ruins appeared beneath the broken dirt. Ancient stairs leading underground. Cold air rushed upward, carrying the smell of wet stone and something older. Something buried for centuries. The hunters backed away nervously. Walter stared at the opening in disbelief. It's opening early. A heartbeat started from below. Slow. Massive. Echoing upward from beneath the ruins. Thump. 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 The sound vibrated through the ground itself. Heavy. Ancient. Alive. And with every beat the glowing symbols around the ruined staircase slowly began lighting up. The same symbols Claire painted above their doors. The same symbols carved into the ritual site. Only now, Ethan finally understood their true purpose. They were not protection symbols. They were prison seals. And those seals were failing. Then Ethan heard the voice again. Closer now. Come home. The words nearly pulled him forward instantly. Claire grabbed him harder. Fight it. What is happening to me? The Alpha below is tied to your bloodline. Walter stepped closer carefully. The old prophecy warned this would happen. What prophecy? Walter finally spoke the truth hidden for generations. The prison beneath Black Hollow could never remain sealed forever. Eventually, another Alpha heir would be born. And when that heir awakened, three choices would stand before him. Strengthen the prison and remain human. Free the alpha below and inherit its full power. Or sacrifice his own bloodline entirely to destroy both. Claire's eyes filled with tears. That's why I hit him. But Damien interrupted coldly. There's another part you're leaving out. Don't, Claire said sharply. The heir must choose before the final awakening, Damien continued. Because once the alpha below rises completely, the heir stops being human. The words hit Ethan like a blade. Because deep inside he already felt it happening. The rage. The instincts. The hunger grows stronger every hour. Part of him wanted the power. And that terrified him more than the monsters. The heartbeat below became louder. The glowing symbols began flickering violently. Some cracked apart completely. Then came the screams, distant, echoing from somewhere deeper underground. Not one voice. Many. As if countless souls were trapped beneath the forest. What is down there? Ethan asked. Claire whispered the answer. The first alpha. Another tremor exploded beneath them. This one is far stronger. The staircase cracked violently while dark smoke began rising from below. The underground staircase stretched deep beneath the forest into complete darkness. Ancient stone walls covered in claw marks disappeared below while red light pulsed faintly from somewhere far underneath. Like the earth itself was breathing. Then Ethan heard the voice once more. Come home. For one horrible moment he saw movement. A massive shape shifting deep beneath the ruins. Far too large to be human. Two glowing gold eyes opened inside the darkness. Then the heartbeat suddenly stopped. Complete silence swallowed the forest. And from deep beneath the earth a voice spoke clearly for the first time. Blood of mine. The ground exploded upward. Something ancient began to rise. The explosion threw everyone backward. Stone shattered upward while ancient symbols cracked apart across the ground. The roar that followed was not animal, not human, something far older. The roar echoed across Black Hollow like a shockwave, shaking trees so violently that branches snapped overhead. Several hunters fired blindly into the darkness below. Their gunshots vanished without effect. Then the first creature emerged. A massive claw slammed onto the broken stone. Black fur. Eyes glowing like burning gold. The thing pulled itself upward slowly from beneath the ruins, a body larger than any wolf Ethan had ever seen. But it was not alone. More glowing eyes appeared below it. Dozens. Shapes climbed from the underground prison one after another while terrified hunters backed away in panic. The seal is broken. Someone screamed. Moonborn creatures rushed through the ruins at terrifying speed while hunters opened fire from every direction. Silver bullets tore through fur and flesh, but the creatures kept coming. Some moved on four legs. Others stood upright like twisted human shadows. The underground prison had opened fully. And everything trapped beneath Black Hollow was escaping. Walter fired repeatedly beside Ethan and Claire. We have to close it now. But nobody knew how. The ancient symbols covering the ruins were fading rapidly. And something far larger still remained below. Then Ethan felt it again. The pull. The voice inside his blood. Every instinct inside him screamed the same truth the alpha below was connected to. Not like a master and servant. Like family. Claire grabbed him before he could move closer to the ruins. You cannot go down there. I can hear him, Ethan said, his voice different now. Claire's face broke. Because she understood what that meant. Then the ground split apart completely. A gigantic shape erupted from beneath the prison. Everything stopped. Even the fighting. The creature stood taller than the surrounding trees. Black fur covered a body scarred with ancient wounds and broken chains still hanging from its arms. Its eyes burned brighter than fire itself. And when it looked directly at Ethan, the entire forest fell silent. The alpha below had awakened. Hunters immediately opened fire. Silver rounds struck the creature across its chest and shoulders, but it barely reacted. One massive swipe sent 3 hunters flying into the trees. Another roar exploded through the forest. Then the slaughter began. The alpha moved faster than anything human eyes could fully follow. Hunters disappeared into darkness. Trees snapped apart. Blood covered the ruins while terrified screams echoed through Black Hollow. Walter dragged Ethan backward. You have to choose now. But Ethan could barely think anymore. Pain ripped through his body suddenly. His transformation had started again. Only this time it would not stop halfway. Bones cracked violently beneath his skin. His spine twisted. Muscles tore and rebuilt themselves. Ethan collapsed screaming while claws burst from his hands. Claire dropped beside him immediately. No. She knew this moment would eventually come. And somewhere beyond the pain, the alpha below spoke directly into his mind. You are my blood. The truth hit Ethan all at once. The alpha below was not just connected to his family line. It was the beginning of it. The first alpha. the origin of every moonborn bloodline. Including his father. Including him. Generations earlier, the ancient Alpha had been imprisoned beneath Black Hollow by its own descendants after becoming consumed by power and rage. But its blood survived through hidden heirs waiting, returning. And now Ethan stood at the end of that bloodline. The final successor. Claire held him tightly. You fight it, she whispered desperately. What if I can't? Her face filled with heartbreak. Because she already knew the answer. The Alpha below turned toward them fully. The massive creature stared directly at Ethan and slowly lowered its head. Not like a beast. Like a king greeting his heir. Become what you were born to be. Ethan screamed as the final transformation consumed him. Fur spread across his body. His bones expanded violently. The ground cracked beneath him while his human shape disappeared completely. And then silence. Where Ethan once stood, a massive black wolf slowly rose from the ruins. Larger than every other creature in the forest. Gold eyes burning brightly in the darkness. The new Alpha heir had fully awakened. The Alpha below roared proudly. And Ethan answered. The sound shook the entire forest. The battle that followed destroyed Black Hollow Forest. Trees collapsed beneath their weight while hunters fired uselessly into the chaos. Ancient ruins crumbled apart as the two massive beasts tore through the battlefield. Then Claire transformed beside them to protect Ethan. For the first time he finally saw what his mother truly was. A giant silver wolf, scarred from years of battle. Fast. Deadly. Still fighting to protect him even now. Together they fought the ancient Alpha through collapsing ruins and burning forest ground while the prison beneath Black Hollow continued breaking apart. But Ethan slowly realized something horrifying during the battle. The more power he used, the less human he felt. Rage consumed his thoughts. Instinct replaced emotion. And deep down, part of him no longer wanted to stop. The Alpha below sensed it. You belong with me. Then came the moment that forced everything. Claire became trapped beneath falling stone near the collapsing prison entrance. The ancient Alpha stood wounded before Ethan. Weak enough to kill. But if the Alpha below died completely, its power would pass fully into the next heir. Into Ethan. He would become the new Alpha permanently. No humanity left. No return. Walter screamed through the chaos. End it now. Claire looked toward Ethan through tears. And Ethan understood the truth at last. 3 endings were possible. Kill the Alpha and lose himself forever. Sacrifice himself to seal the prison permanently. Or save his mother and let the ancient bloodline rise again. The forest collapsed around him while fire spread through the ruins. Standing between his dying mother and the ancient Alpha calling him home, Ethan made his choice. The fire spread through Black Hollow Forest faster than anyone could stop it. Ancient trees burned beneath the collapsing ruins while smoke swallowed the sky above the mountains. Hunters fled through the darkness carrying wounded survivors. Some never escaped. Others disappeared into the forest forever. By sunrise, half of Black Hollow Forest was gone. And so was the underground prison buried beneath it. The villagers watched the fire from a distance in complete silence. For the first time in generations, the truth could no longer stay hidden. Too many people had seen the creatures emerge from the woods. Too many hunters had died trying to contain what lived beneath the forest. And too many lies collapsed with the ruins that night. The elders finally admitted what they had hidden for decades. The monsters were real. The Moonborn were real. And Claire Vale had spent 11 years protecting the village from something far worse than the stories ever described. But by then Claire herself was already gone again. Nobody saw exactly when she disappeared. Some claimed she walked back into the burning forest before sunrise. Others believed she died during the collapse beneath the ruins. Walter Vane never answered questions about it. Whenever villagers asked where Claire went, the old hunter only gave the same response. She returned to where she was needed. After the battle, Black Hollow changed forever. The fear never fully disappeared. People still locked their doors before dark. Children still avoided the forest edge. And every home in the village quietly painted protective symbols above their doors once again. Only now they finally understood what those symbols meant. Not fear. Protection. Respect. A warning. As for Ethan, some believed he died inside the ruins beside the Alpha below. Others claimed they saw a massive black wolf walking through the burning trees after the battle ended. No body was ever found. But strange things continued happening around Black Hollow. Hunters stopped entering the forest alone. Disappearances near the mountain suddenly ended. And whenever storms rolled through the village, people sometimes heard howls echoing deep between the trees. Not angry. Not wild. Watching. Guarding. Months later, Walter returned alone to the ruined prison site. The fire had destroyed most of the forest there. Ash covered the ground. Burned trees stood like black shadows against the fog. But something still felt alive beneath the silence. Walter slowly approached the collapsed ruins carrying Claire's old necklace in his hand. Then he stopped walking. Fresh tracks crossed the ash in front of him. Massive wolf tracks. Far too large for any normal creature. And beside them new symbols carved into the stone ruins. Fresh claw marks. The prison seal had been restored. But not completely. Walter looked toward the dark forest ahead. And deep between the burned trees 2 glowing gold eyes slowly opened. Watching him. Waiting. Walter lowered his head slightly. Not in fear. In understanding. The ancient alpha was gone. But the bloodline survived. And somewhere inside those woods Ethan Vale was still alive. No longer fully human. No longer fully beast. Something in between. The new guardian of Black Hollow Forest. As the wind moved through the burned trees one final time, the narrator's voice returned quietly. For years, the village believed the woods stole Claire Vale. A pause. But the truth was far worse. Thunder rolled softly in the distance. She stayed there to protect the world from her son. The glowing eyes blinked once inside the darkness. Then it disappeared. Some stories do not end when the monster disappears. Sometimes the monster becomes the thing standing between the world and something worse. Deep in Black Hollow Forest, something still walks alone. Watching. Guarding. Waiting. And some nights, when the wind moves through the trees just right, you can hear it. A day. If you made it this far, you already know this story lives rent-free in your head. Subscribe for more dark werewolf legends, cursed bloodlines, ancient prophecies, and terrifying mysteries buried inside forgotten forests. And tell us in the comments if the alpha blood awakened inside you, what would you choose? He thought the bite would kill him. Until the full moon shows him instead.